Yeah.
Let's see. So I've got a few questions about
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
So let's see. So, have you always been a natural born leader?
I would consider myself that, yeah. Yeah. I'm not a big talk about myself kind of guy, but yeah, I've been leading for a long time.
Very nice.
Goes back to sports, of course, in school. Friends, close friends, who's going to do this, who's going to do that, who's going to step off first, who's going to take the lead. And then I carried that into the Marine Corps. I was a leader fairly young, out of boot camp, and I remained. Yeah, I remained. Yeah. But I came back to being just a guy leading nothing when I got out of the military. So it took a minute to decide what are you and who are you, and yeah, I definitely feel that I am, because I'm approachable. I think anybody can succeed. Anybody can be a leader, but you gotta kind of want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
solid. And then, who are some leaders you hope to emulate?
Ooh, that's a tough question, man, because I'm actually a really harsh critic on leaders, because I have such high expectations. To stay away from politics, because I don't see much leadership there. Not a big religious guy, although I grew up in religion. A lot of people find leaders there as their spiritual leader or their political leader that they believe in, that kind of thing. I'm more so slide towards military leaders, people that have gone through extremes. So I'll name a few, right? The ones that we know, right? Patton and Chesty Puller and all these types of guys, right? But they're leaders. You gotta look at leadership in a different way. Leadership, let me turn this down. Leadership then was to win by any means necessary, right? And in some cases, you can look at some of their leadership tactics and there would be a harshness to it, because true leadership to me, if you're in a military point of view, would be good leadership is getting all your men home, right? And doing the right thing in tough times, but getting everybody home. Being a combat vet, I've done that. I led them through combat and then brought everybody home to their mom, so I know what that feels like. If you look at old leaders, the big names that people look up to, a lot of humans died that were unnecessarily didn't need to, because of the lack of technology at the time, right? So a lot of these guys in today's world wouldn't be necessarily, I believe, considered great leaders because they were given so much freedom to do whatever they wanted. So today's leader, I actually admire young leaders more than I do senior leaders anymore. I kind of changed my whole policy on that. Because the young, selfless leader is, you're going to see men and women more likely want to follow that individual than somebody who has all the experience and has done it all, but kind of forgot how to lead. When people get older, you forget that you need to be very empathetic to folks that may not necessarily be leaders themselves. And so I'll go there on some of the old military leaders, but in current times, I don't have anybody really that I look up to as a leader individually, as a person, man, woman, or anything like that. Yeah, I don't have one, which is a weird thing to say, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, somebody usually has somebody. I could say my dad, but my dad died in '97, so it was a long time ago. So I didn't really know him as like an adult, adult. But yeah, as a kid, he might have been a leader that I wanted to be like. He was a Marine, he was a police officer, so people usually throw in their dad as something like that, but he never knew me as a Marine, so yeah, so I can't really throw him in there. But yeah, I don't really have any these days. Yeah, I look to young leaders. What inspires me, the next generation of leaders.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And then, would you say you're a decisive person?
I am, yeah, but only when I have control. See, because there's a lot, even in this job here, I can be decisive to a point in what I'm in control of. But yeah, I believe that I am. Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
And then, what does your decision-making process look like?
Decision-making process, I can go the cheesy way and say who, what, when, where, and why, and do the military thing, right, on all of that. But it depends. It depends on the situation. I actually, if I apply it to security, if I apply it to being a father, if I apply it to being a dad, all these kind of things, I think ahead, very far ahead, to the point that, and even in my line of work as executive protection, I have to anticipate and almost remote, as weird as that sounds, remote view my brain forward in thinking. I'll give you an example. So if I'm on a detail alone and I got to take on the whole city of Los Angeles, and I've got an A-list celebrity and they're in a bad mood, the city's in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood, I'm expecting that something's going to go wrong, right? And you got to go with your gut on that. You can't just assume that everything's going to be going great. So by remote viewing, I'm talking about if I'm moving myself into a situation, I'm thinking of 10 different things that could go wrong, things that might go right, things that I'm actually in control of, and things that I'm not in control of. And I try to bend the spoon a little bit on that, because when you move into an environment and you're reacting to something for the first time, you're slow. You have to digest all the information available and then make a decision. If you've thought about these things and then now they're happening to you in real time, your reaction time is faster because you were waiting for it, you anticipated it. It's the same type of thing if you look at defensive driving on the freeway. Oh, that guy's leaning in my lane, and then he does.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing, but in your steps in life and what your plan of the day is, what you're going to do. So a lot of that starts early for me. I get up early, 4 a.m. I run, I think, I gather my thoughts for the day, write things down if I need to. I'm one of those that has to write it down a few times for it to stick sometimes, especially if it's a big project. So, but a lot of it is just getting it in gear and getting it ready. First, starting with yourself and getting that propelled in motion. And then for me, I've got 3 kids, I've got a wife, I've got to get them all set. And then now it's time to go to work. Right, you got to prioritize those things and what needs to be dealt with first, because in this type of work, it's 24/7, never stops. So it's easy for us to you don't just hang it up and go home. You take all the work home with you because you got your phone. So it's one of those things too that it's a lifestyle to do this type of work. So, and to be ready for guys all the time. So to get things set up, it starts very early, and it's a mindset, it's a mind state for the day. And I act on that depending on how stressful or whatever it's going to be. And sometimes a lot of it gets thrown at us that we're not even really truly prepared for, and we just deal with it. But if you're thinking about it, at least that's my opinion. If you're thinking about it ahead of time, then you're going to have a better reaction to that. And that could be put into anything, your daily tasks, or just living your life. But a lot of people tend to just procrastinate and work on the back end, which makes for long weeks. Which I do not like to do. Yeah. So.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And then, so what are some components you consider throughout this process?
Components?
Yes.
As in?
So like you said, like the future, and just possibly like alternatives to your decision making.
In what sense? Applied to work? Applied to lifestyle? Time off? Just decision making, because when you say component can be a lot of things. So yeah.
So like, are you more about like the pros and cons, or you're more thinking about like
results?
Yeah, results.
For me, it is mission accomplishment at all costs. That's it. Doesn't matter what it is. Mission accomplishment has to take place. Whether that's getting a guy a job, whether that's standing a post myself, whether that's completing this interview or the interview I have after you, that kind of thing. That is what drives me at the end of the day. Not necessarily how much I can get done to please somebody or whatever else, is how much positive work can we get done. And this is a unique place, as you know. I mean, we have the ability not only to train, but also to field, and we're also veterans ourselves. So it's a factory, basically, of processing guys out and giving them, guidance in where to go next, which just simply wasn't around 20 years ago. So for me, there's that side of things, which keeps me in the job, by the way. Yeah, because if it was just about money and security, I most likely would have moved on a long time ago. But it is about the men, at least it is for me. And that's part of the mission accomplishment, is like paying it back. So in the decision making of that, it's easy. I was a veteran, so I know what that feels like. So it's very easy for me to give a dude 100% and be like, look, that's the end of the tunnel, man. That this is the light that you were looking for, not this wandering and trying to prove yourself and all this kind of stuff as guys do when you get out. You need somebody to say, hey, this way, over here. And dudes come over and you point in the right direction, you get them educated, and hopefully they go out and become leaders and do great things. But I don't know. That's a tougher question for me, because I do a lot of things effortlessly, as in because I care. I don't think too much about it, how I'm going to get out of it, because it's not my company. But our mission statement here is exactly that. On the training side and the security side is what the owner's intent is. And the owner's intent has always been to have the best security company, to have the best training company, and to help vets, to help guys, just like him, make their way in the world after, and as he says, which is a great quote, is the black and white, right, of the military, and then you are now released into the civilian world, which is a multicolor spectrum of everything, and you got to find kind of your way in that spot. So that's always been his thing there. And we started off small, and it's a much bigger deal now. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one for me, because it's wrapped into my work. So yeah, but I hope that answered some of it.
No, it was good.
Yeah.
I'm just paranoid after the night shift I ordered.
Yeah. I know, you're kidding.
And then, so how did this internal process develop over time?
Internal process of thinking?
Yeah, just like decision making and just really
life experience,
planning ahead.
Yeah, life experience. I mean, like I said, I grew up in a military and police family. So to me, being a young person at 2, 3, 4 years old, living here in California, I'm growing up with a mother who's a 911 dispatcher, and I'm growing up with a father who is a former Marine that has PTSD and is an alcoholic, but also a police officer. Mm-hmm. So, to me, when you look up at that, that's like a role model too, right? He's got a uniform, he's got the gun, he got the whole thing going on. That formed exactly who I was going to be very young, being around that. And I would say he was a fair leader, but he wasn't the best leader. Unfortunately for him and people that are alcoholics or in general, different generation then, very internal people, didn't express too much love, care, wasn't too much forward thinking, more about now, more about inward thinking instead of outward thinking. So although I would say, to go back to that first question, leadership, right, or second question, in some respects I would look at him as a leader in the community, as the community would. Mm-hmm. But at home, as a leader, I don't know, not necessarily. And in fact, I do a lot of opposite now as a father myself for my 3 kids that I would have done then. That he did then. So, and that's being approachable, being more open and available, and giving the right advice to people. So, another tough question because I'm trying to just give you a sharp answer to that, but it's not easy. For me, it's not easily done. Yeah.
I can't within myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question.
And then, is there a lot of group decision making among our leadership?
Here?
Yep.
Because there's personal questions and then there's business questions, right? Mm-hmm. So ask me that again and I'll.
So is there a lot of group decision making among our leadership?
In this company, Leadership of America, so here.
Yeah, in our leadership.
In our leadership, yes.
ASC.
Yes, yeah. We have, so to give you an example, we have the beginning of each week and sometimes midweek and at the end of the week if necessary, based off the workload. We're having constant meetings. Mm-hmm. As the company's grown, it's tripled in size just in the past 10 years, as an example. So it went from just 1 or 2 of us having a meeting about what needs to take place to now many jobs are available if guys want to stand up and be a leader, and we've had to kind of fracture out and break up the company based off of region now because of its size. And we are from San Diego all the way up to Santa Barbara and everything in between. So as an example now, I may be the overall director of operations, although then we have Omer and Oded, which are above me, president, and you have the vice president / president. And so we're called the lean and mean think tank. We're very, very tight on certain things, but we have what is necessary to run it and no more. Mm-hmm. So, like as an example, one of our competitors, Gavin Becker in Crisis 24, they may have 6 managers for, let's say, personnel of 200, covering only so many accounts. For us, we have a lot of responsibility on one individual. So as an example, I may be in charge of 15 accounts, but those may have about 100 men in them. That's one person. And then you have an executive protection side, you have the estate side, you have the training side, you have the event side, you have inspections. So it's broken up basically amongst 5 people, and that's it. runs the whole company of about 350 people. And then there are people under that, supervisors and things that are on the ground. But yeah, we're dealing with it with a 24/7 urgency. And the key to that is communication, is responsiveness from your leaders. It's one of the biggest things I get is when I'm communicating, and I've communicated with you too, you'll text something, most people put the phone down and wait for 10 minutes or an hour or half a day for their leader or their manager to respond before you can put your phone down. Or if you just wait and look at the text, you'll see the dots pop up. Somebody's going to respond to you. And that is our sense of urgency here, because our clients are like that, the agents are like that, and we've all grown from the ground up. We know what it's like to stand a post at night and not get relief. We know what it's like to be calling and calling to get our supervisor and not get him until the sun comes up. And that's just not acceptable in this line of work. So for us, being approachable, being available, and giving the right answers. And if we don't have the right answer, we pass it up the chain until finally it gets to the boss, that we're doing our job. So communication, is key. And I'm not saying that all the personalities get along and all that, but the leadership traits are there. And it's about the men, it's about the men and women.
Very nice. And you feel like this decision-making process is advantageous?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, definitely. When it moves with purpose, and when we're providing jobs in short order. Just as an example, we have one class left for West Academy for the year. They're currently going. They'll graduate, mid-December or so.
Nice.
But just in the past 2 classes, we've hired like half of the class. These are classes of 16. And we have a new account that is absorbing these guys. So even in the time that I've been here, you're looking at our average would be a guy or 2 in the old days a month we would hire. Give them a new job, help a vet, 2-3 vets a month. Now we're doing much more than that, because the post-COVID, the jobs are available in security. From car details to standing posts, people now see the need. From having CEOs being assassinated to people hopping fences to just simply anything under $1,000 you can just take and walk out with. So now having the presence, having security there is a bigger deal. So the industry's booming, actually. So it's a great opportunity for anybody who wants to jump into it.
Very nice. And then, so in that, do you feel like you're more naturally inclined to present new ideas, or are you more naturally inclined to critique, or lack of a better term, play devil's advocate?
Definitely a position to put it out there, because we're on the cusp of anything modern because of our owner. He has an open door policy here that if you've got an idea, bring it in, we'll talk about it. And he can either agree with your idea, disagree, but if he likes it, he'll put some effort and some money behind it, and off you go. So that's there.
Nice.
Yeah, it is advantageous in a way that it is what you put into it, and it's hard to find people like that. A lot of owners are extremely cautious. They're fine with taking risk, but measured risk. He's open to it, as long as it's not too damaging, which is refreshing. And why many of us are still here is because, as long as you can follow the orders, the chain of command, and what everything's going on, and stay within the lanes, there is a lot of freedom to be yourself here. Even from what you're allowed to come to work. People are allowed to bring their dogs here. You're allowed to, dress as you like. But when it's time to lock it up, and step in there, put the suit on and perform in front of A-listers, Fortune 500 families, billionaires that have a very high standard of what they're paying for. You got to be able to fill that role, and that's the key. And that's not easily done, to find guys that your run-of-the-mill guard. That's not what we produce here. We're producing a high-level individual that ultimately we want to be able to do everything on their own. That's the key. There's no control here. We don't hire people to put them in a spot, and that's all it is. We actually are hiring people, training people, and modeling them for that specific client. That's what I do. That's what I told you even in our interview, is that I think I have a client for you, where your personalities are going to match. And it is. You just need more time with her, but it did. I showed in the interview, and I took a smile on the back of my head within the first 5 minutes because I knew it was. Yeah, she just needs to get to know you. And so that, you could go back to leadership, is a good leadership trait, as in, I want you to succeed. I don't need them to be happy that I got you in. I don't care. I want you to get the job, and I want the client to be happy. And then in turn, the owners will be happy, right? My managers will be happy. But I want you have to succeed. That's the whole point of what we're doing. And it's hard to do with guys with no experience because we're basically putting our word on the line and saying, this guy, he's good.
Yeah.
Whether he has the experience or not, don't worry about it, sir or ma'am, he's going to be great for you. And they trust us for that. That's also rare. You know, you look at a lot of our competitors, a lot of the security companies, it's very much a business transaction.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, it's a business, yes, but we're not necessarily trying to do that. We're trying to bridge the gap where you are now a part of the family in a way. They trust you with anything, from warming the soup to changing the diapers to the red carpet to driving the client alone, whatever's necessary. And that's really what they want, not just some guy with a gun, you know, that's on their property that they don't know. So, yeah.
And then, so you usually do like, you have a lot of like program decision making, like guidelines that you've developed. Like, are you saying like you think ahead and you don't really?
Policies and procedure wise, yeah, it was kind of already set in stone here.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. You had more to that. Did you have any more?
No, like just how you said like, yeah, you like to think ahead so that you're not really thinking too much in the moment.
Yeah.
You feel like you have a lot of that. You have a lot of, it's called program decision making.
Yes, yeah. So I do. And at my age now, I'm almost 50. A lot of it, I wouldn't say always comes from experience, but I'm always willing to learn too. But I can anticipate in some cases what's going to happen next. It's the likeliness of things, right? Just in teaching or in driving, anything, the likeliness of something happening. But yeah, it is rigid. Yeah, there is rigidity to it. You know, there is a planned thinking. But in all cases, it comes back to all the stuff that we learned, you know, from our mom and dads, right? Leave things better than you find them, right? Get in early. I'll use teaching as an example, instructing. I'm in the class an hour and a half in most cases before a student will ever arrive. I'm double checking the equipment. Is it going to work? Because I'm not going to do that on the client or I consider students clients or the student's time. It's my job as the instructor to be prepared and be ready for you guys. And that goes down to sweeping the floor, to sharpening each pencil if a test is needed. And that is a big difference. You can apply that to any, or are you the kind of instructor that comes in with the coffee and the bagel 5 minutes late, half of your class is late because you set the standard, that's how you are. Yeah. And it's okay, we'll begin when I'm ready. That is some of the most ultra disrespect I've ever seen. I see it a lot. It's that I'm the person in charge for the day, so we're gonna do it my way, which is the sloppy way, which is the, you know, hey, here's everything I was told to give you, instead of actually, you know, reaching out and seeing that, you know, these students are not learning very well. You know, is it the way that I'm teaching? Maybe I should change it a little bit. Maybe I should change it individually for different folks, which is tough to do in large classes. But it all starts with preparing. You know, being prepared for what that task is for the day. So over here, though, our policies and procedures are clearly lined and established many years ago. We like to say in blood because of a lot of the things that we learned that went wrong, that we did do good, that we set standard on. And in many cases, because our owner here has been doing this since the 90s, you know, in many cases we have set the standard for how to do this work in Los Angeles as a whole, if not the world. And we are still the only, Pacific West Academy is the only 40-day course. It's the only executive protection course. It's an accredited institution, .edu school in all of the world. Wow. All of the other ones are just 10-day quick hotshot courses. This is how my company does it. Do it like this, and let's get the guy in the field as fast as possible. Here, we're molding these men and women to be leaders, future givers to their society, and we follow them back to their 50 states, and we help them succeed. Not just give them permits from California, final salute, good luck. We follow you home. And now you can put me as your reference because I know you. I just saw you train for 40 days. And in some cases, they work out here, and we help them and ultimately get the job or become a trainer or whatever. As long as they're open and willing to do it, we're going to follow them back and make sure that they succeed. And being accredited means we have to. Yeah, we want to see them, and they basically have got to get into the job market under, you know, security. Or you don't get the credit for that student. So it's imperative that any institution that does that cares. Like you, ultimately at the beginning of it all, you've got to care. Yeah. It can't be a money-making machine. It's not, anyways. It's kind of low bar money. But what does it do for veterans? What does it do for the security industry? It changes it. It gives you a better product. So now you got good guys out there that know what they're actually doing instead of they got the permit and their guard card and they learn by faking it until they make it. Right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah, it's being best prepared, I would say.
So, and then what are some like non-programmed decisions you may encounter with your job position, like some rare and occasional scenarios?
Every day because of the nature of our work. So if you look at a normal business that has operating hours from 9 to 5 with customers and all this kind of fun stuff, it has a beginning and an end. With security and private security, each one of these homes is a bubble. And the people that work there, whether that's staff, vendors, technicians, security, we all fall under that umbrella in one way or another. Will not have the same experience as you will next door and next door and next door and next door. Because it's private property, you're at the mercy of how that client is as a person. Their children, do they have them? Their age, are they the young party set that doesn't have, an establishment and infrastructure of smart people? Or is it all on us? And so it is always unpredictable in our environment, unless it is an established business person who's wealthy and older and has slowed down their life, and it's basically grandma and grandpa's house, no big deal. Okay, sun comes up, sun comes down, boring, uneventful. Or middle-aged, right? Middle-aged, it can be a buzz about. You have children still, you typically have dogs in the home as well. So, as far as the erratic nature, also apply the fact that it's Los Angeles, and it's Hollywood. It's the studios, it's the whole lifestyle of that involved can set its own rules. It can set its own rules, and this in a way is a city that doesn't sleep as well. So when you're talking about security, it is highly unpredictable. There are times that I get a call that there was a murder. There are times that I get a call that it's just a false alarm, and it's everything in between that. And so I got to say that it's been very interesting working here. I've been here almost 18 years, and although it may have started off a little slow at first, you'll find yourself doing all types of things in security, good, bad, ugly, whatever. But that's the nature of the job, and it's a unique one because in many cases we're the first line person that sees that on the street and within the home before the police officer would. They're typically a responding element. We're the ones that are already there when things typically happen. So highly erratic, highly unpredictable, you name it. Yeah, it can be out there. Yeah.
And then do you feel like you operate on intuition and reason judgment a lot?
Yes. Intuition I use, and I balance that with reasoned judgment. Yes. Yeah. And going with my gut, I guess you could say. Now, where does the gut go? Some of it's the way you were born. I believe a lot of it is your experiences. So, like I said, I'll go back to being a combat veteran. That kind of gave me another layer of thinking and the way that I assess things, look at things, and then determine myself whether they're a threat or not. So that gave me a different set of eyes, if you will.
Very nice. Yeah. That kind of leads to the next question of how would you deal with uncertainty?
Gather as much information as I can in a short amount of time. Because if it's uncertain, then it's uncertain. I need to be ready for anything. I've thrived in those types of environments. I thrive better when I'm alone, because I don't have to worry about other folks and getting them out as well, or dealing with whatever that situation is. Uncertainty to me can lead to something bad, unfortunately. Uncertain fun is great, but nobody ever talks about that. So it's usually uncertainty, something went down. It's not stable. We're unsure. And so in those environments, leaders now need to step up and have a plan. Even if it's not the best plan, a plan, something loose. And it falls apart like it will, then we'll just adjust. But you got to have something there. And a lot of guys, I've seen it too. You can use executive protection as an example. If you send out an untrained individual and they get mobbed by the paparazzi, they start making a lot of mistakes, and they do it on camera. So the whole world gets to watch you make these mistakes. You should have gone left. He should have gone right, and all these things. And then they dissect you. That is an environment that, I'll use the example of the advance or the reconnaissance of an area first, that can give you the deep breath you're looking for. If I can go to LAX and I can touch the curb that I'm going to drop the client off tomorrow, and see that there's a stain on the curb right here. There is that lady that works over there. There's this here. Will this all be here tomorrow in 24 hours? Most likely, yes, so I can count on it. It'll be slightly adjusted, but this is the baseline of this space. Now that I know that, I log it in and I come in live with the client. You never want to do that on the client's time. Getting lost. So sorry, sir, ma'am, we're going to be late. All of this craziness needs to be done in a training environment first, or in the advance first. And then when you're going live on it, you're almost guaranteed success, absent the unpredictable, right? Or the uncertainty of certain things. So, you try to be as certain as possible in this line of work. Much easier to do from behind a desk, helping guys get jobs, working out there alone with a client, and you're tailed, not necessarily the case. Because in everything, the bodyguard is always, or the security, whatever the situation is, everybody's always waiting for that person to make a mistake. And it's easy to do. It's easy to lure you away. One man on one person is easy to break apart. That's why, if we have our way, it would be two guys at all times, right? But that costs money.
Yeah.
And clients don't typically do that. But yeah, that'd be how I would answer that. Just typically using a security example, because this makes sense.
And then to wrap it up, any words of advice for any individual uncertain of their leadership prowess?
These are stiff questions.
I do my best.
Uncertain. Uncertain.
Any words of advice for an individual
who wants to be a leader, but is uncertain of how to go forward, or somebody that may not have had a role model, right? If somebody ever asked me that question, first of all, I would need to identify, because I'm a helper, I'm a giver. I give more than I take every day. So I would identify that. If I identify a leader who wants to be a leader, and it's obvious, but they're being kind of peer pressured out of it. You're not big enough. You're not smart enough. You don't have the fanciest words. You're not sharp enough. Whatever that case is, people can learn to do that. They can learn to be that. So it's going to take effort from another leader who identifies that, or the quiet leader who wants more responsibility has to speak up, and come to somebody who can actually make the change, not just complain to somebody. Hey, I'm not in charge. I get that all the time, because there's usually in this line of work, there is somebody within the team that wants a leadership role. The longer that team stays together, it's hard for another leader to put himself back to a beta leader and let the other alpha leader take it. Even when they see them making mistakes, it's tough. And that's always a hard time. And people don't like criticism. They don't like constructive criticism either. So when you have a younger guy saying, hey, I would have done it this way, or this and that, immediately it's looked at as negative. I would actually want that personally. If I'm kind of off the rails a little bit as a leader, and I'm more focused on the mission, and I'm more just listening to my higher ups, and I'm losing the understanding of my men, I would hope a young leader would come to me and say, hey, look, we know you know what you're doing. You're making a lot of mistakes here. So I would say speak up. I would say that a true leader will identify that and see that. I'm always looking for young leaders. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is when I'm out and about on the town and I see a strong guy working security for another competitor of ours or a different company, I ask him how much he's making. And in many cases, I'll tell you, man, I've gone to like a Ross or something. I try to save a lot of loss prevention guys. I find veterans folding sweaters. And I come to them and I say, hey, were you in the military? I can see you're in the military. Yeah. Where'd you serve? What'd you do? Okay, cool. Hey, yeah, it sounds like you were in a leadership role. I said, hey, man, I've got a client. I think I got something for you. Maybe you should come over. Let's talk. Many times I've done this. And only once or twice did the guy actually tell me, I've been doing this for a long time. And one guy said, no, I'm happy here. I don't want responsibility anymore. I'm no longer looking to be a leader anymore. Folding sweaters here and watching that door is all I want to do. And I said, but how are you ever going to make more money? How are you ever going to do more and be more and be better? And he simply said, I don't want it. I'm not interested in that. And so for me, always trying to sprinkle, love to everybody and try to give them jobs and help them, all these things, it shocked me. That somebody didn't want to better their situation. They just simply were content with what they were doing. So that is the leadership side that is tough for guys to understand.
Yeah.
Is that this is all this gentleman wants, so just that's fine. So if that kind of person's on your team, you got to understand that about him.
Yeah.
And then deal with them a different way. You talk to them a different way. You handle them. You listen a little bit more in certain areas that may interest them, to try to pull them out of them, because you can't give up on people. You got to continue to believe in them, even if they don't believe in themselves. And it'll just take time. With a good leader, if you stay with them, they'll come out of it. But they need to have their responsibility they're comfortable with to learn how to be a good leader. And I'll give you the last example I have is I thought I was a good leader in the Marine Corps. And there's always one or two guys that will tell you different. You know, hey, well, I saw you do that and I didn't like that, or I saw you didn't like that. And I made a fatal mistake as a young corporal with having, I was an infantry guy, having Marines under me, is that I befriended them. And when you befriend, it's one of the cardinal rules of leadership that there's that hard line between two personalities. And some leaders will never let you come close to the fire because that's how they lead. Other leaders will let you come close to the fire to feel the same warmth they do. But you need to understand that at some point here, they're going to be the ones that put it out, right? And say, now we got to move. The fire's over. The fun is over, and when you are close to your men, too close, they will no longer listen to you. They will no longer be led by you because they feel that they're being targeted. They'll feel that they're being picked on because they are your friend. Well, why are you asking me to do this when you know that guy's a worse guy than me at this job, and we're friends? And what they don't understand is I'm asking you to do it because I know you're going to do a good job, not because I'm picking on you. And if you were a friend or admiring my leadership, you'd go do a great job better than I asked you.
Yeah.
Not because you're being told to do it, because it has to be done no matter what.
Yeah.
And why don't I do it? And so it's the humble leaders that always succeed, man. It's the givers that always succeed. And I learned that very young. Is that I thought by being a friend to everybody and showing them the right way, and I'm there with you. I'm not doing anything. I'm not telling you to do anything I'm not doing too. But it actually hurt me in the end. Well into having to now go do the job and push away from training, as in, why are you asking me? And that's not where you want your guys to be at all. So what do? Do you choke back on the friendship a little bit on that? No, not necessarily. It's too far gone. You can't. So you have to find out a new way to lead. So I'll end with that. You can be a strong leader one way, and that works well for you. But to be a really good leader, you're going to have to be different types of leaders for different types of people. And to get them to understand where you're trying to come from. And in all cases, you got to be approachable. If you're the kind of dude that keeps the door shut, you got to knock before you enter, already doing it wrong. So I leave my door open all the time. Students can come down. You can walk in, whatever, come in. This is an open space, whatever you need, and hopefully it betters you, and you move on. For sure. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know if I answered any of those correctly.
No, it's good stuff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.
That's why I chose you.
Yeah, solid, man. Right on. Yeah, anything you need, dude. I just want you to do the dog training.